course I'm nervous. So Crystal Hammond. So I've been blogging for since 2011. I started my blog, Sophisticated Spender, a long time ago. Thanks to J Money here. They had a. Remember, you guys used to do that holiday giving thing for Christmas. You and Enemy of Debt. So I entered the contest. And I won the contest, and so I know one of the stipulations were to follow the blogs. So I never knew what a blog was, and so the more I read the blogs, I was like, "Hey, people ask me these same kind of questions. Maybe I should start a blog and give my perspective." And so that brings me to the whole point of why are we here tonight? So Plutus Voices, thank you for having me, first of all. But we're all content creators and we're here to share our voices. So someone's looking to hear your story. I grew up on the south side of Chicago, so I didn't have people to ask, hey, what's college like? How do you get into real estate? What's the stock market? No one said, hey, how do you should turn your hobbies into money. So there are a lot of things that I grew up, number one, not knowing these things existed. And then number two, not knowing who to ask for, thoughts, experiences, and how they got from point A to point B. How did they demystify this process from being, looking for a home to, I bought a duplex and now I'm a real estate investor. And now, hey, I want to do this again and again and again. So that's why we're here. We're here to share our voices because there is someone out there that doesn't either know anyone or they don't know anyone that's actually approachable. Because let's see, who's big in real estate? Well, of course, we think of Donald Trump. I don't want to be political at all, but that's not an approachable person. You know what I mean? So it's like Susie Orman. Well, that's another. But there's these big people that they're you don't want to say they're not approachable, but you want to talk to somebody like me. Somebody that grew up like me, someone that maybe grew up without the help and assistance. So you're learning on your own. You're failing on your own. So you've joined a community and now you're like, hey, I'm at the point where now it's time for me to share and help build a community and build the next group of people who have the same goals and want to do the same things. And that's led to each thing has been a pivot, so each time something happens or an opportunity comes your way, it leads to a pivot. So a few of my pivots. So one of the first pivots, flunking out of college. College wasn't easy, so flunked out twice. But then what did I do every time I flunked out? This is like sounds like an AA meeting almost. I had to pivot. I had to figure out what to do the first time. And I relied on my community of things to do. Like, hey, who did I talk to? Someone else who flunked out to give me advice on what to do next, when to do next. I eventually graduated, but it took 7 years. But then there was the next time to pivot. Oh, I need a job. And who knew a job's not going to knock on your door and say, hey, I hear you've been looking for me. Here I am. So that was another thing to do, to share my journey of, hey, how I found my first job. People think it's hard to believe. The Sunday paper actually found a stable government job. That's what brought me here to DC. The Sunday paper, and so just sharing that story of just an unconventional way to find a job when at first I was working at a payday loan check cashing place because turns out, if you flunk out twice, you don't have a 4.0 GPA. What does a 2.7 GPA person do to find their first job with this, fancy degree? And so you pivot. And then what happens when you grow up on the south side of Chicago, not knowing anyone in real estate, and the landlord of the duplex you grew up in, they're like, hey, it's time for us to sell the building. And your mom still lives there. And so you're like, let me lean on my friends. And I know 2 friends that go to these real estate meetings once a month. Maybe I'll go with them to their real estate meeting and I'll meet someone there and I'll become their friend and I'll be like, hey, by the way, someone they want to sell my mom's building. Can you buy it and not raise my mom's rent? So I go with my friends to their real estate meeting, and I ran into a mortgage broker, and he's like, "Why don't you buy the building?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know. No one, my mom didn't want to, no one in my family owns a building. I don't know what to do. I don't know what you need to buy a building." So there you go. That was another pivot where, I went to the meeting thinking I'm going to meet someone else to buy the building. And then I pivoted and turned into the person that actually bought the building. And I was like, hey, that wasn't that hard, So it's just, who do you rely on? Who's your community? And then who you surround yourself with too. Because if I hadn't gone to these real estate meetings and immersed myself in other real estate people, I would have not known how to invest in real estate. So that was another pivot. Trying to think, I don't want to forget any other pivots. And now I've had the opportunity, because the city of Chicago, they have a program which that was another pivot. So when you're a landlord, they make you go to these landlord classes. And so I met other landlords, and they were like, hey, there's a program where you can get a grant to renovate the property. So that was another pivot. Then another pivot was, these are pivots just from, surrounding yourself in niches and areas that you want to learn more about. The city of Chicago has a $1 large lots program. So even though I lived here in DC, if you own a property and there's a vacant city lot on the same street, you can buy it for $1. So that was another pivot. I'm like, well, I'm going to buy these lots for $1. I don't know what to do with them, but I feel like that's a good opportunity, and then pivot to today. The more people I talk to and share what my goals, now I'm building duplexes from the ground up on those lots. So that was another pivot. So my whole point of sharing all of this and the blog, the pivot is, you never know what each opportunity is going to lead you, because, I started that one blog back in 2011. No, that was 2001. No, it was 11. And I'm trying to remember which FinCon, the FinCon in 2016, because you never know who you'll meet at FinCon. You meet lifelong friends at FinCon. And so another blogger, Jason Butler, we left a FinCon saying, hey, let's do a challenge for our readers. Because that year it was all about collaborate, collaborate, collaborate. And I was like, let's just do this collaboration thing. Let's collaborate. Let's challenge our readers we did a 1-month challenge where try to make money. You can make money selling things on eBay, because that was his specialty. I knew how to, I used to sew in high school. I know how to sew. Maybe I'll teach people how to sew. Yes, I made this dress I'm wearing. So that was my challenge too. I ended up losing the challenge because that one 30-day challenge, it took me so long to get my first customer. But that was a pivot, and then which leads me to today. I started a whole So Fab, a sip and sew business. So now I've taught hundreds of classes during the pandemic, made over 1,000 face masks, but that also was a pivot. And did I see any of these things coming? No, but I just blindly followed each pivot. And so that's my story, a few stories in the interest of time, of how each pivot is like you embrace it, you surround yourself with other people, and then you share your story, because that's going to help someone else. And there was even another pivot, a fitness pivot. I'm a Zumba fanatic. I would be the first person in the front row, and if any new person was in my spot, I would make them uncomfortable by moving them out of my spot. And so, one day the instructor was like, I'm moving, but you should get certified. And I was like, me? No, I can't teach Zumba. And they're like, yes, you can. Why not? So then I ended up getting certified. And now, I paid this one time. It was like $300 certification for life. But now I make like $300 per month teaching other people something that I love. So just me of sharing each journey of how it happened has helped so many of my readers. Like I just had someone tell me on Tuesday how me sharing, and this is, $300 a month is not really life-changing, but it's a realistic number, it's a small number, and it's like, hey, I started, and you never know where it can go. So that's my time. Thank you for coming, and now I'll introduce or give it back to Miranda.